So, it's us again, and today is a poker night. And we are trying to do... we are trying to play probably a more of a turbo night today. Because we have been traveling forever. So, I don't think that we could have a good long session today, so we are trying to do something a bit easier.
So it's Aarnimetsa's and Dayah's poker night tonight, and for a change we will have MTTs. We have had sit and goes for 3 weeks, I guess, because there was some kind of a interesting challenge you can read about on our website, and today will be a bit different than you might expect.
Yeah, I'm wondering about what we will take, and we are taking one turbo tune because it always sounds interesting, and it always is interesting.
Greetings to you, Lost Pro. Welcome and welcome. Nice to see you again.
We are trying to start an interesting session, so there will be a decent amount of games running, and because of this turbo tune we are probably trying to not take as many games as we can.
That's interesting that we will have soon tournament, because I think we haven't played those very many, if any.
I think we have played one, and it was in the middle of something like 10 tabling, and it was horrible.
So you might have learned something about that.
Yeah, I think the first notice that I made to myself that don't play tune tourneys.
And here we are.
Yeah. So things just happen. In the turbo tune on the button I think that we can open quite liberally. And I'm wondering if our HUD is working. I think on a tune table it's interesting because those players that are on the blinds, they are, on the other hand, the big blind needs to wait for us to do an action before he can do anything, so I think it's an interesting spot, but when you are in position you are pretty much making money even if you are opening quite a wide array of hands. I'm just a bit unsure if it's more or less profitable, and this is interesting as well. In a tune tournament, a player shoves for 60 big blinds, and I'm wondering what his range is there. Because in a tune tournament, if you don't like your hand, you can just quick fold and you'll get another one. But that was, I think it was a bit interesting. And that's something that I usually don't see in tune or rush tournaments. People shoving such a huge stack. On the first hour, I think we are trying to play mostly turbos, and if there are good hypers, we are playing those as well. But we are trying to take it easy on the amount of tables, because it's always better if you can concentrate on the hands. So now we know that we can see HUD on other tables and in the tune tables, so we are just thinking if our tune HUD works or not.
But it should work.
It should work. And that's something like should work, but still does it work and should it work are two different things.
True. You have a top table over there, and it seems to be very nature loving. There is apes are fun, and there is Pyhä Karu, which means holy bear. It's in Estonian, and Jornik is something like ancient forest or something in English.
Yeah, I'm restarting my Poker Tracker 4. For some reason I had taken the Choom HUD out of order, so then it doesn't work in the Choom tournament, so that was my mistake. And as it usually is, if technology doesn't work, usually it is my mistake because I have touched something I shouldn't. But it should be interesting. Will we see a HUD or not? I'm going to defend a Queen 10 suited here, but if it would have been offsuit, I wouldn't have defended here. It's going to be hard to make money against the button, because the button has position and we have absolutely no idea on what kind of player he is. And we are not having a huge hand, but we are having a very decent hand, so we are giving him space to bluff and space to do something stupid to increase our stack size.
So there was some kind of a trick you could use to see the previous hand in Zoom tournaments.
Yeah, if you are folding, you can press CTRL and the fold button, and then you are seeing the hand even after you folded. And that's a neat trick because it gives you some extra edge on the players that aren't looking at what has happened on the hands. And Eulost Pro says that 3-bet is better than flat. Might be. What's your reasoning behind that? I think that we are having the turbos we want, and the next tournament will start its hyper, and it will start in I don't know how many minutes, in 2 minutes, so we are not taking a and now we can see that our Choom HUD is working, and we can see that the bass node is playing a bit wider than a general population, I'd bet. Usually I like to keep my options open, so I'm having flat ranges as well. But it might be that I'm more used to playing with shorter stack sizes, and when you are playing with shorter stack sizes, you sometimes want to have situations where when you have options to make moves that you don't have if you 3-bet pre-flop instead of. And this is an interesting spot in the Turbo Knockout, that the guy just shoves 30 big blinds, and I think I would have called with Ace King. But Ace Queen is, I think it's just not good enough. So I might have some unoptimal play for the deep stacked play, because usually even if I play in sit and goes, the deepest the stacks will be 75 big blinds in the beginning, and the effective stack sizes, they are getting so short in such a short amount of time, and the amount of chips that are moving at the beginning stages of sit and goes are just so low that it doesn't make that much sense in optimizing for those moments. It's basically what I said about wanting to have my options open, that I want to have as much space to make moves post-flop as well, but I think that might be because of my background and because of my... And could you consider calling 30 big blind push with suited ace-queen? Probably not, because there are also players that are... Or there are players that are doing it with a very tight range, and if the player is complete unknown, I think that then we need just to play readless, and when we are playing readless, then we are playing about the general tendencies.
And of course, I think that shoved looked really, really fishy. But then you need to consider what you are risking by calling and what can you achieve. And in that sense, when there is small blinds and basically no antes, you need to consider that as well.
In a chum tourney, it's slightly interesting when the opponent just calls me, and it gets even nastier when we are hitting our set, so it's an option that he's going to have just one heart or having a king there, and we are not folding our middle set here. I think that getting it in isn't horrible there, and that's something I didn't expect to see, but I'm very happy to see it, because then he was drawing to a one-outer. And we are seeing second shove in a moment, and now we are having a perfect hand to call it. And 30 big blind shove looks fishy, but even if it looks fishy to call it with ace queen, we are practically requiring him to be shoving something like ace 10 as well. And I think we are a bit out of luck. The first shove was just ace 7, but somebody woke up behind us with aces, and that's not even the interesting part, but the big blind called. When 3 people are all in, the big blind calls with pair of 8s. Like, what?
That's really horrendous.
That's something...
And it wasn't even like 10 or 15 big blinds pushes. There were quite a huge stacks.
And now when we saw the ace-7 suited, that's a player that... And that's something that I made a mistake, because a player like that, we need to make a note that the player has been shoving 30 plus BBs. And Callan, he had quad draw with 8s, yeah. Yeah, and that's always that what you can outdraw. But I think with 8s it's just that people are... When there are 3 people already all in, you need to dodge at least 2 overcards, and even then you are... Pretty much you are always faced with a way better hand. And we are having 2 more tournaments going in 10 minutes. I'm wondering if we should take and we are even having enough space to set mine here. And usually I'm talking about the call 20 rule, that when you are having 20 times more in play than, or in stacks, what you need to call. But in this case there is a 3-better and there is a caller, so we are quite likely, if we are hitting a set, it's quite likely that we are getting the money in. So that's why I'm I'm willing to be set mining even when I don't have even when the call 20 rule isn't filled. And Paistisili, I like to see calls like those as well, but even though when I like to see calls like those, I'm still surprised. And Callum says that he was a bit optimistic and put all 3 to ace king, which makes it an easy call with 8s. We are having an interesting spot as well. And with the boner alert, I think that it's quite likely that he's going to have an ace there, and it's quite unlikely that he will have a flush there, so I think there is a general population isn't going to be wide enough in these situations, and I think that we are going to get some value out of a weaker ace pretty often here. And some players don't even recognize, even when the board is paired twice, that they don't recognize that still with an ace the kicker plays. I think that I'm fitting pretty much every Eulos Bros rule about a player that he will mark as a fish, so perhaps I will be marked something like blue or green on Eulos Bros radar, because I'm showing my 6 stars that are the supernova stars, because I tried it 100,000 hands without the stars and with the stars, and with the stars I got just way more folds, and it fits me really well to show the stars, and I think it will be way more plus EV to show the stars than to hide the stars. And Caleon is testing Table Optimizer and Circus Trader, and it didn't go very well. I hope you didn't play your usual amount of tables, because if you are including new software into your games, you are always needing to take note that things can go wrong, and things can go horribly wrong. So usually when you are trying to get new software working, you should be dealing with just doing one extra software at a time and trying to fit it to work your workflow as good as it should. And with King Queen suited, this kind of flop is something that we don't want to see when the Cesarman has been 3-betting, because he's having aces, or he will have an ace here really often. And that's also really good for when Callum said that just 10 tables with 9 max turbos, because when you are playing just one structure, it's going to be easier for you to adjust.
That was an interesting hand. There was a pair of jacks that lost a huge pot for 3-5 suited.
In which table?
On lower right one.
Let's see.
I didn't see that from the beginning, I just saw the end result, and I was sad to see that Ape's gone.
Yeah, apes are fun, just flatted with jacks.
Why on earth do you just flat with jacks?
I don't know. Perhaps he likes playing against. Perhaps he likes playing jacks without, or likes playing jacks without position. Without position and in a multi-way pot. I think that's like the definition of a poker player's hell. that you are playing jacks every hand you are playing jacks, and you will be playing a multi-way pot and out of position.
Basically, you're just set mining by doing so. And you shouldn't be just set mining with jacks.
But that's something that I would be marking someone as a bad player for doing something like that, because that usually includes that he will have huge holes in his game plan.
And that's even surprising that he was playing against 6 zeros, and both of their either game or stats are looking pretty horrendous, and it's more than $50 game. So there is still value.
So, Eulos Pro, are you talking about the Jack's hand? I think it was a min raise here. And he just called the min raise with 30 BBs, so even the stack sizes aren't that huge. And I think this would have been an interesting hand to talk about the call 20 rule as well, because we would have filled the call 20 rule with Poker Soul, but when the blinds just shoves there, I think that 7s are going to be too weak. I think something like 9s or 10s would be the first hand that I could be re-shoving here.
I think I would even prefer shoving jacks instead of flatting there. Even though it's a bit too wide of a big of a shove still. You rarely like the flop when you just call there.
I will want to have some explanation about from Eulos Pro on the Jack's hand, that why you are liking flatting. That it's at least as good as an option as 3-betting. In general, I think that I like 3-betting jacks, especially without position, because usually it will make my game plan way easier in a hand, and I know that that's not a good enough reason for just making the game plan easier, but it's usually also you are playing a bigger pot and you are having a really decent hand, and it will end sometimes in there, and if you are getting it in, usually it's going to be pretty easy, especially against the late position open, getting it in with jacks. Yeah, with jacks, it's still 47%. It's still like 47%-ish that you are having the top pair on the flop, then there are no overcards. But that's not the point, because if you are not having position, you are going to be in tough spot, because you are not going to get enough value on those times that you are getting it. So I think that's something that I would like more. That's something that I would like more if they... And in position, you are having more options open and you are having more opportunities to win the pot. But if you are thinking about without position, I think that I like 3-betting more when I'm out of position, and I might be flatting sometimes when in position, because then there are more options for me to win the pot with jacks, even though, and also when I'm hitting, it's easier for me to get a bigger pot when I'm in position. And that's something also that I'd need to think a bit about, because somehow I know that I haven't explained my thoughts really well here, and the words just escape me. Not all the words, but the correct words.
So we are following the Justin TV chat and our own chat on pokerimania.com/forum.
And we are following our Finnish chat, and we are like multi-tabling chats as well. And we are having one table off screen. We are having the hotter $16.5 turbo open on the other screen. And we will fit it in when we are getting enough space in the on our screen. Oh well, how did we get here? Being tired, multi-tabling poker and trying to explain something in another language isn't probably the optimal thing. And this looks interesting. Nah, just for a few BBs, so not even that interesting.
Yeah, we just got back from Finland like 1 hour ago, and we have been there almost.
We have been traveling for 5 days in a row, from one city to another.
Yeah, so we have been in at least 3 different cities, staying in different places, so we might be a bit off.
And sleep deprived.
Staying at houses where are kids, for example, and playing with lots of spending a lot of time playing with kids and waking up at the same time that they are. So we are trying to get hold of our life right now, but it might take a couple of days.
And for the bigger 16.5, we hit second nut flush on the first hand of the tournament, and we got it in against nut flush. So we are not going to see the hotter today. And I think that was that's not that usual for me to be out of the tournament from the first hand on.
No, it's not very like you. But you couldn't have had folded there.
Nope.
Because neither of you had ace on the hand.
I think Eulostpro will have a point there. Point there with jacks, but I'm still thinking I will need to calculate it, but I think that was an interesting opinion, because usually if I see someone just calling jacks, that's a mental note for me that it's probably not going to be a very profitable player that I'm against. Against the Cos friend, it would have been an easy call. But when the Yaro 369 is calling, I'm thinking that he will have a way better hand than I am, and it will be, and that would have been an excellent hand to control fold, because I just love to see what's there for my opponents. And with just 3 big blinds and just 2 anti-adjusted big blinds, any king is going to be good enough there to be shoving. And we get dominated.
Amazing.
That usually doesn't happen with...
And not with the 4.
Yeah, not with the 4. And with 2-3 off, we are hitting it quite well. And we are giving them space to be betting. And this is something that's going to be really interesting for the
Ouch.
That's a bit... Well, let's say that that was something that I didn't expect when he shoved really big on the... Like, really big on the turn. No, not that big, but overbet shoved on the turn. I'm thinking that his hand is not going to be that strong that it was, because he shouldn't be afraid of practically anything there.
Well, it's more likely a draw at that point, I think.
And actually calling there isn't that good when I'm trying to get to showdown pretty cheaply there with the 10 jack, because my hand isn't that good, but it will still have plenty of showdown value. And there are a lot of options for him to bet the turn with, and he didn't have any of those hands that I thought that he will bet the turn with. Like, there are 2 draws open, but well, not today. Then I'm wondering which will be our next game, when it's going to be opening.
Do you still have some registrations in?
Yeah.
So in 7 minutes there will be a $44 Hold'em Turbo 15k guaranteed.
Yes. And I'm probably taking a rebuy game here, so that we will have our tables full for sure, because this Hyper Turbo, we are not having the... Let's say it this way, we are not in the perfect situation, and in a perfect world we would have a bit larger stack in the game.
Well, in the perfect game, or in the perfect world, we would have a huge stack, like all the chips. But we are not quite there yet.
Yeah, Kalle, that the Fishy players tend to do a lot of these I hit, I bet, and I hit, I bet big types of plays, and there have been some situations that I have been calling with an ace high, because it doesn't make any sense that he's trying to make me fold, and then I'm being calling with something that's going to be like a hand that shouldn't be there. And it's interesting, the auto add-on works now on PokerStars.
That's really good.
Yeah.
There have been sometimes it hasn't been very good. So it has been...
or not being very good, replace it with it hasn't been working at all.
What do you think about the people in the rebuy tournaments? For example, that 350. If they are not rebuying at the beginning of the tournament, do you think that you could kind of think that they are not the best of the players, or?
Usually, I don't think that we haven't, or we have probably been discussing about what is the optimal rebuying strategy, and I'm unsure if we have been doing an English article on our forums about it. But if you are playing like with the optimal rebuy strategy, you are going to be rebuying at the beginning because you are getting the chips at a discount, and when you are getting chips at a discount and all the players aren't, you are getting some edge free from the other players that just decide not to use their edge. I'm not that happy even when I'm hitting top pair here, because it also completes the draw here. But I will be still value betting against the opponent, and now I'm starting to get a bit worried. And even though now it looks fine that we are having the two pairs here, but like our hand's real value just plummeted with this 9 of diamonds. Like our hand has no value whatsoever at this moment, because basically it only requires 1 diamond for the opponent to have a... It's going to be... It's... In sit and goes, it's going to be close here, but when we are far away from the monies, it's going to be good to be calling here. And why it's going to be good, because we are requiring something like 36-37%, and we are getting 40% with Queen Jack suited against even a quite tightish range.
That was quite surprising, but when you put it in that way.
And with Ace King, it's going to be easy for us to be calling.
For sure. At least after that kind of hand. Well, it was a different hand, because it is Zoom tournament. Yeah, forget about it. But if that had been a normal kind of tournament, people tend to notice that if you are making a interesting call that they might think that it's not optimal, they might be paying attention to it.
I'm going to take a few of those $3.5 rebuys into my set, because they are going to be interesting games anyway. And if we are looking around the table right now, that we are having one regular that made a rebuy, and then 2 other players are having really reggy stats. Like the players that are... The players on the table that have made rebuys are having way reggier stats than the players that didn't, so I think that we'll still say something about the players, because the players are knowing the correct strategy for a rebuy game. And in PokerStars there is like no reason at all to not be following the correct rebuy strategy, because you can put it from the settings, and if you are using the settings, you are always playing the perfect rebuy strategy by just having one box of settings done correctly. So on other sites it's a bit harder, because it requires manual labor. And here, even though he's betting here against me, I'm thinking that there are so many draws that he can have that I'm not that worried about him having a better hand than I. And this is like first hand that we can see from the opponent. And when we see it going to showdown, it's going to be easy for us to mark the opponent as a purple one.
Well, you are just not calling with that hand on that spot.
Yeah, even though you are having position, calling with... Even if you are... when you are having position, you are not calling with... Calling with 9-5 off. Or 9-5 suited anyways. It's going to be... It's going to be really hard for you to be making money after that. And actually this would have been a decent call. Or not a decent call, this would have been a good call, so it was my mistake for not making the good call. And as we can see, we are not having the... Let's put it this way, that it's easier for us if we are running good at the end than in the beginning, but it would be nice to run a bit good at the beginning as well, because it gets you energized.
That kind of requires to run good at some point to get to the end games.
And Kalle and I agree. I probably c-bet way too little because there are both draws. There are straight draws and there are flush draws open. So I would have needed to bet bigger on the flop. But I don't think that it wouldn't have changed that much, because when the opponent calls my c-bet, I don't think that... And especially when a fishy opponent calls my c-bet with 9-5 off anyways, I need to bet bigger, because I don't think that my bet sizing isn't going to make a lot of difference for him to be calling. So if he's calling wider, if he's calling with third pair and practically no draw on a flop like that, I would need to be betting as big as I can to extract maximum value out of him. And I think that was an excellent point from Kaleon. There's the Sunday Million Megasat, but we are not going to be playing it today, because I don't have the energy to play Sunday Million at all today. But if you are interested in playing the Sunday Million, the 100-seat turbo just started.
And how many players is there?
3,300. So there are still a bit of overlay, but I'd bet that there won't be any overlay when the tourney is finished. With Ace-Queen against a baddish player, we want to be getting it in. I just can't see any other way, especially when he opens 3x. It's just going to be way too juicy of a pot to not be taking it down.
What if he had opened something like 5x? That's usually a mark of a small pocket pair or a huge monster hand from a fishy player.
I think that there will be still enough blinds and antes to make it profitable to be shoving, even if he would know that he would have a small pocket pair, that it would be profitable to shove. Then there's another discussion about how much variance do we want to take on that kind of spot. But there is still an option that even if you know that he has a small pocket pair, there is still an option that he will be folding this smallish pocket pair after we shove. Because he was sitting out, I was opening here because it's like playing from small blind against big blind, but we are playing in position, so practically we are going to be opening every hand, and in that kind of situation.
And yet again another 3x.
Yeah, this is a more horrible spot. With ace queen suited or ace queen off, I would be shoving this pretty much instantly. But now we are 30 big blinds deep effectively. Last time it was about 20 big blinds. And with ace 10 suited, there are more dominating aces that he can also have. I think some players are making mistakes there because they are thinking that people that are opening 3x are going to be bad. And they are making mistakes in that regard. That we can't be re-stealing against a player that is opening 3x because bad players are going to be calling too much. But that also depends on if the player is a random player, they might be 3x opening and folding way too much, like they don't know when they would need to be going with their full range. And sometimes, especially if the stack sizes are low and someone is 3xing, I'm probably going to be re-stealing way wider than most people. And here the 9-5 player is 3-betting small against us, and we are getting it in like, that's just, is it a snap shove or is it a insta shove? That's the only discussion point there.
Yeah, it could be nice to run good at some point.
Nah, not complaining. If we are not running good, we are ending this session pretty quickly. Then I can catch some G's.
Yeah, I think there would be no way we could be playing the Sunday Million today. Otherwise you just would see two zombies on this side of the screen and probably no talk at all at some point.
Yeah, it would be a really Finnish coaching for a while. Like really Finnish. I'm thinking that the Rogerio will have a draw most of the time there, or something that I can make fold after that one. And against the Dayah,
it's like Dayah.
It's an interesting spot because he has been betting a lot of the time post-flop. And this is again something that it would be completely stupid to do this with a good ace, right? And that's, when it's completely stupid, that's just to be expected. And well, I was right. It would be completely stupid.
And actually I thought there would be that freaking ace. Oh dear.
On the tomb, I think it will be player out. I'm wondering what this waiting for other players means. And now we are having a session of the rebuys. And for the next hour, after we are starting our break, for the next hour we will be starting only hypers, and we are only starting hypers and only starting hypers and 180 men turbos.
Good evening to Virpa. Yeah, we just got pretty fed up with 50/50s, so you can see those on our YouTube channel. There will be, and there already is quite a lot of videos of them.
I thought that you were going to see that there will be blood in the 50/50s.
Well, I couldn't say there won't be blood.
And nice bear toe. This is Sparta!
Yeah. Was it Virpa or who said that at the first place that maybe you shouldn't be shaving during the rahastusjahti? So if that was Virpa, shame on you. There will be blood.
At first there's the question, was it Virpa? And then there's the next question, is Virpa coming to the PokerStars live in Stockholm?
Yes, revenge.
And Caleon, yeah, the sample was small, but I think that we can adjust what we are thinking about the opponent even with a small sample of games. And now it's time for coffee. Yay, coffee!